My estranged sister tried to steal my lottery winnings, only to discover I'd already given it all away. I, 34, female, come from a family that, for lack of a better term, has always been complicated. My parents, bless their hearts, always favored my younger sister, Chloe, 32, female. She was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, while I was always the rebellious one, the one who questioned things, who dared to have opinions that differed from theirs. This favoritism wasn't subtle. It was a glaring, undeniable fact of our lives. If Chloe got a B, it was because the teacher was unfair. If I got an A, it was because the test was too easy. You get the picture. This dynamic reached its peak when I was 18 and decided to move out for college. My parents, who had always envisioned me attending a local university and living at home, were furious. They saw it as a personal affront, a betrayal of their carefully constructed family image. Chloe, of course, was lauded for choosing the safe, local option. The ensuing years were marked by increasingly strained interactions. My parents would often call, not to ask how I was doing, but to subtly, or not so subtly, criticize my life choices, compare me to Chloe, and drop hints about how much I was missing out on by not being closer to them. Chloe, meanwhile, would occasionally reach out, but her calls always felt more like veiled attempts to gather information for our parents than genuine expressions of sisterly affection. About 7 years ago, I met Mark, 36, male. He was everything my family wasn't: kind, supportive, understanding, and completely accepting of me for who I was. We fell in love quickly, and our relationship blossomed into a beautiful partnership. We shared dreams, supported each other's ambitions, and built a life together that was truly ours. The one thing Mark understood, perhaps better than anyone, was the lingering shadow of my family's disapproval. He never pushed me to reconcile, never judged my emotional distance from them. He simply listened and offered comfort. 2 years ago, our lives took an unexpected turn when I won the lottery. Not a small sum, either. It was a life-changing amount, $15 million after taxes. It was a shock, to say the least. We are talking about an amount of money that could buy us absolute freedom, allow us to pursue every single one of our wildest dreams without a moment's hesitation about financial constraints. The first person I told, naturally, was Mark. We sat on our couch, staring at the winning ticket, a mixture of disbelief and utter euphoria washing over us. The first few days were a blur of hushed conversations, legal advice, and planning. We decided to keep it a secret, at least for a while. We wanted to process it, to make smart decisions, and to ensure we didn't let the money change who we were as people. We also knew, deep down, that telling my family would unleash a torrent of drama we weren't ready to face. Mark and I had always dreamed of opening an animal sanctuary. We both had a deep love for animals, and the idea of providing a safe haven for neglected and abused creatures had been a long-standing fantasy. With the lottery winnings, that fantasy suddenly became a tangible reality. We spent months researching, visiting existing sanctuaries, talking to veterinarians and animal behaviorists. We bought a large piece of land in a secluded area, far from the city, and began the painstaking process of building. We designed state-of-the-art enclosures, hired dedicated staff, and poured our hearts and souls into creating a place where animals could heal and thrive. It was a massive undertaking, but it was incredibly rewarding. The bulk of the lottery winnings, nearly $10 million, went into establishing and endowing the sanctuary, ensuring its long-term sustainability. Another significant portion, about $3 million, was invested wisely, setting us up for a comfortable future and allowing us to dedicate our time to the sanctuary without financial worries. The remaining $2 million, well, that became our emergency fund and a small nest egg for personal pleasures and unexpected expenses. We lived a relatively quiet life, immersed in our new project, our secret well guarded. We didn't flaunt our wealth, didn't buy flashy cars or extravagant homes. Our joy came from seeing the animals flourish and knowing we were making a difference. Our small circle of friends knew about the sanctuary, of course, but they assumed we had inherited money or received a large investment. They had no idea about the true source of our funding. Then came the inevitable. My parents, ever vigilant, noticed a shift in my life. I was happier, less stressed, and occasionally mentioned work at the sanctuary during our infrequent calls. My mother, with her finely tuned radar for anything that might suggest I was doing better than Chloe, started asking more pointed questions. What kind of sanctuary? How are you funding it? Is Mark's family helping? I deflected as best I could, offering vague answers, but I knew it was only a matter of time before their curiosity turned into suspicion. The catalyst for the explosion, however, came from an unexpected source: my aunt, my mother's sister. She's a sweet woman, always meant well, but notoriously bad at keeping secrets. She had seen an article in a local newspaper about our sanctuary, a glowing piece highlighting our dedication and the impressive facilities. The article, while not mentioning the lottery win, did allude to generous private funding and a significant personal investment from Mark and me. My aunt, innocently enough, called my mother, gushing about how wonderful it was that I was doing so well. My mother, of course, latched onto the significant personal investment part. That's when the barrage began. My phone started ringing incessantly. First my mother, then my father, then even Chloe. Their tones were a mixture of feigned concern and thinly veiled accusation. Why didn't you tell us you had so much money? Where did it come from? Why are you keeping secrets from your own family? I tried to explain that it wasn't a secret, just something we hadn't widely announced, and that our finances were our own business. This, predictably, did not go over well. A week later, my parents called to inform me they were coming to visit. Not would you like us to visit, but we are coming. They arrived unannounced, essentially, standing on my doorstep with suitcases. Chloe, of course, was with them. The tension in the air was palpable the moment they stepped into our home, which was modest but comfortable, certainly not a mansion, which I think disappointed them. The polite small talk lasted less than an hour. My mother, unable to contain herself, launched into it. "So, this sanctuary," she began, her voice dripping with an artificial sweetness that always preceded an attack. "It's quite impressive. Your aunt said it was funded by a significant personal investment. What exactly does that mean, dear?" I took a deep breath. "It means Mark and I invested our own money, Mother." "Yes, but where did that money come from?" my father interjected, his voice stern. "You were never particularly well off, and suddenly you're running a massive animal sanctuary? Don't insult our intelligence." Chloe, who had been conspicuously quiet, piped up. "Are you hiding something, big sister? Something like a lottery win?" Her eyes, usually dismissive, were now sharp with a predatory glint. It was clear she had been doing some digging. I knew the jig was up. There was no point in denying it anymore. "Yes," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. "I won the lottery about 2 years ago. $15 million. Silence. A stunned, shocked silence that stretched for what felt like an eternity. My parents' jaws literally dropped. Chloe's eyes widened to saucers. For a moment, I thought perhaps they would be happy for me, that maybe this news would break through years of resentment. That thought was, of course, naive. Then, the dam burst. $15 million. My mother shrieked, jumping to her feet. "And you didn't tell us." "Your own family." "We wanted to keep it private," Mark said calmly, stepping forward slightly, a silent show of support. "It's a lot to process." My father slammed his fist on the coffee table. "Private? This isn't private. This is deceit. We are your parents. We should have been the first to know." Chloe, however, took a different approach. She fixed me with an aggrieved stare. "You know, I always struggled financially. After college, I took a job I hated just to pay off student loans. I've always dreamed of opening a boutique, a really high-end one, but I could never get the funding." She paused, letting her words hang in the air, then continued, her voice rising in pitch. "And you had $15 million and you just didn't think of me." My blood began to boil. "Chloe, you chose your career path. I've never asked you for money, and I certainly don't expect you to ask me for handouts." "Handouts?" she scoffed. "This isn't a handout. We are family. You have more than enough. You could have helped me achieve my dreams. You could have set me up for life." "She's right," my mother chimed in, now fully on Chloe's side. "Chloe has always been so responsible, so dedicated. She deserves a chance to pursue her passions. You, on the other hand, you're off building an animal sanctuary. What kind of responsible adult puts millions into animals when her own sister is struggling?" "Excuse me," I said, my voice dangerously low. "The animal sanctuary is a passion project, yes, but it's also a legitimate business that provides jobs and helps vulnerable creatures. It's something I believe in, deeply. But Chloe believes in her boutique, my father thundered. And you, as her older sister, have a responsibility to support her, especially with this kind of money. It's practically obscene for you to hoard it all for yourself and for stray dogs. Hoard it? I repeated, incredulous. We've invested most of it into the sanctuary, making sure it can operate for years to come. We've created something meaningful. Meaningful for you, maybe, Chloe sneered. But what about us? What about your family? Don't you think we deserve a share? After all the sacrifices Mom and Dad made for you. This was it, the core of their argument. That I owed them, that my success was somehow theirs to claim. What sacrifices? I asked, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. The sacrifices of constantly criticizing my choices, of favoring Chloe at every turn, of making me feel like I was never good enough. Don't you dare speak to your mother like that, my father roared. Oh, I dare, I retorted, standing my ground. And Chloe, you have the audacity to say you deserve this money? For what? For being the golden child? For letting our parents dictate your every move? For never once standing up for me when they were tearing me down? This isn't fair. Chloe wailed, turning to our parents. She's being cruel, after all I've been through. My mother put an arm around Chloe. She's just jealous, sweetheart. Jealous of your potential, jealous of everything you've accomplished. Jealous? I scoffed. I'm not jealous of anything. I built my own life, I earned my own success, and I found my own happiness. Something neither of you seems capable of doing without trying to leech off of others. The conversation devolved rapidly into a shouting match. My parents were demanding, Chloe was manipulative, and I was just trying to defend my choices and my right to my own money. They kept repeating phrases like, we are family, you have to help us, and you owe us, and Chloe deserves this more than you do, running around with animals. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I had enough. You want to know what happened to the money? I said, my voice cutting through their angry demands. You want to know why I can't just hand Chloe millions of dollars for a boutique she probably wouldn't even run successfully? They fell silent, eager, expectant. They thought I was finally going to give in. Because it's gone, I stated, a grim satisfaction spreading through me. Most of it, anyway. Nearly $10 million is tied up in the sanctuary, legally structured so it's protected from anyone trying to lay claim to it for personal gain. It's an endowment, a trust. It's for the animals, for the staff, for its future. It's not liquid cash I can just hand out willy-nilly. Their faces fell. The hope in their eyes flickered and died. And the rest? Chloe asked, her voice tight with suppressed anger. What about the rest of it? You said it was $15 million. The rest was invested for Mark and my future, so we can afford to dedicate our lives to the sanctuary without worrying about finances, I explained calmly. And some of it, a smaller portion, was used for a few personal expenses and donations to other charities we believe in. We didn't blow it on yachts or mansions, if that's what you're imagining. We used it to build a life we are proud of, a life that gives back. So, you're telling us, my father said, his voice low and dangerous, that you won $15 million and you have nothing left for your family. I have enough for my family, yes, I clarified, looking pointedly at Mark. The family I chose, the family who actually cares about me for who I am, not for what I can provide them with. And that's not you. The realization hit them like a physical blow. Their faces contorted with a mixture of rage, disbelief, and a profound sense of entitlement thwarted. Chloe let out a frustrated cry. My mother started to hyperventilate. My father's face turned a shade of puce I'd never seen before. You spiteful, selfish girl, my mother gasped, pointing a trembling finger at me. After everything we did for you. You did nothing for me but make me feel inadequate, I countered, my voice firm. And I owe you nothing. This money was mine. I earned it, I won it, and I used it to create something good in the world. Something you could never understand. The visit ended, as you can imagine, in a spectacular fashion. They left in a huff, spewing threats and accusations, vowing to never speak to me again. Chloe sent a barrage of angry texts later, calling me a horrible sister, a betrayer, and claiming I was depriving her of her birthright. I simply blocked her number, though it's been 6 months since then. I haven't heard a word from my parents or Chloe. And honestly, it's been the most peaceful 6 months of my life. The sanctuary is thriving, the animals are happy, and Mark and I are more in love than ever. We are building a life filled with purpose and genuine happiness, free from the toxic drama of my estranged family. Part of me feels a pang of sadness, a faint echo of the little girl who always longed for her parents' approval. But that feeling is quickly overshadowed by the immense relief and freedom I now experience. I realize now that their love was always conditional, always tied to what I could do for them, or how well I fit into their predetermined mold. And I refuse to be molded that I know some people might say I should have given them some money, just to keep the peace. But honestly, what peace would that have bought? A temporary truce, perhaps, but at what cost? They would have seen it as an entitlement, a confirmation that they could always manipulate me. This way, the slate is clean, the ties are severed, and I can finally, truly, live my life on my own terms. The best part? Knowing that Chloe, who always believed she was inherently more deserving, ended up with nothing because of her own greed and entitlement. The irony is not lost on me. I didn't get revenge. I simply lived my truth and protected what was mine. And in doing so, I found a freedom far more valuable than any lottery winnings could ever buy.